Well, it's more than chat GPT. I think this session is to do with something that's relatively nascent to India, that is AI on your computers. Not yet for consumers, more for businesses. Since this is a very new industry, let me just do one thing. I'll start by asking Sudeep here from Dell Technologies to fill us in on what one-on-one AI really is, what kind of adoption India has seen so far, because it's relatively new, something that we've only had since the start of this year.
I think AI PCs are like cooking gas, but
slightly more complex than that.
But before I go say this, I'm a sales guy, so first let me put some credentials on. The last 3 months, she knows the number. I have sold personally many 10,000 plus kind of AI PCs to organizations in this country. So I know a bit about what goes in buying, and that's why I compare AI PCs to cooking gas. Remember when it came, we knew the obvious benefits, but we had those questions in our mind about, is it safe? Will it leak? Is it secure? Do we need to buy such a big thing? Can I transport it? But over a period of time, you could get burners which could do 4 things at the same time. You got liquid gas, you got line gas, you got small ones and all that. That's how I see the adoption is. There are tons of pros. You get much better productivity. You become personally more intelligent because you can ask a lot of things. It personalizes your work. You can do a lot much more of collaborative things. There are certain things like perceived cost. Is it too high? It is not.
Would you want to tell us how much it would cost to buy an AI PC from Dell?
For you, we'll do a special price, but an AI PC doesn't cost anything much more than the normal PC today, if you know where to buy and what to buy. But it's not cost. Is it secure? That's a question people have. And will it lead to some kind of hallucinations? I use it at my work and something goes wrong. Yeah. There are certain things which come up as inhibitions. And I believe for that, the best thing is to transition, to learn from it. Maybe do small pilots, train your people, integrate it with your systems, and go with it. That would be, I think, my answer to more and more people adopting AI PCs and feel the best out of it.
Okay, let's get some more insights into this cooking gas that's just starting to cook in India. But Urvish, when I asked you earlier about the kind of work that Intel is doing on one-on-one AI, you said something about information to formation to creation. Just take us through what exactly that is and the size of the opportunity you really see globally and in India, the size of the market for this particular innovation.
Yeah, totally. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Good to be in Bangalore and India for sure. Look, I think 2024 has been a transformational year for us from a client AI perspective. And by extension, that's PC. To quantify the magnitude of the size, we predict that in 2025, the global market will be roughly north of 275 million units. That is a big expansion to TAM in double digits. So here, adding on to our sales folks here, I'm a sales guy myself. We have an opportunity to convert all of them to AI PC. So the market is huge. And we have, at Intel, we have really basically focused on, a very, like, to your point about, information to formation to creation of this AI PC with a very comprehensive approach across the computing stack. So you talk from applications to models, to operating system, drivers, frameworks. They're all optimized for AI acceleration. And we do think that roughly 40–50% at the minimum will convert into both enterprises and the end user scale as well.
So 275 million pieces by 2025 of these AI PCs. How much in India?
Well,
Sudeep is already selling about 25,000 a quarter.
My friends from India are telling me the Indian market will be about 14 to 15 million of that total TAM. So that's a huge opportunity as well. And it's essentially, it's an infancy stage, right? We are basically will mature with the industry. The entire industry is essentially looking to identify the use cases, whatnot. So I do believe that as adoption kind of starts kicking off, there the market naturally will expand beyond 14 million as well. So it's really upon us how fast we grow and how fast we can convert this entire new category. For us, really, this is a new category.
Yeah.
That's how we see it versus just a next generation upgrade.
Well, one would think the most natural, industry that would adopt this would be the IT industry. So, Siddharth, from Wipro, the question is to you as to how this is redefining employee sort of experiences and productivity in workplaces. And are you a user of one?
Well, of course, I'm a user. Goes without saying. But absolutely a pleasure to be here. Being a technologist, it's radically changing the way employees now are consuming data and application. AI PC is the hingeman where we will now break up into use cases, which will be very, very specific to employee personas. I think we all appreciate in this room that when we look at employees, one size doesn't fit all. If you're a sales guy, you're a finance, you're marketing, your needs are very different. And lucky we are in this generation that we have solutions today which will harness the power of edge AI. Last 2 years, we've been consuming AI from data centers and cloud, which are fundamentally data centers. Today, we are now in the cusp of consuming AI right where we are sitting. So it's a boon, tremendous boon for the employees. I'm looking at an age where we will have personal assistants. We have started that. We all know this in Rome. But the maturity of that personal assistance and many, many more use cases like Copilot, which we all reading every day, will change the way employee work. And that being my research area, I also feel that the productivity you would see by leaps and bounds. That's
well, I can see why an IT industry would be keen to use this. Of course, Intel is keen to sell it, and so is Dell. But let me ask you then, Alok, as Tata Tele Business Services, are you convinced you should use it? What are the benefits that you see of using one-on-one AI, of AI PCs?
See, definitely. I mean, as everybody has a fears, of course, in terms of the use cases, but I see a positive trend. Positive in the sense AI is going to always be on the assisted side. It's going to help you solve whatever human intelligence would have taken a little longer to solve. Now, if I look specifically from a telecom market perspective, telecom specifically has various nuances in terms of the complexities which we have. Whether you call it as a quality of services or the way we engage with the huge networks. Let's assume that if we do those computing on the edges rather than doing on the data centers, we actually decouple the strengths of data centers and try to utilize on the edge as well. We will save a bit of cost, I would say, at this stage, and maybe things would be much more faster. Rightly said, one of the key driver in this case would be how do we create SLMs as per the personas. There are various personas within any enterprise, whether it could be sales, marketing, could be servicing, and so on. Maybe healthcare, somebody just talked about it. You'll be losing the jobs. No, it's not going to be about losing jobs. It's always about how do we assist the respective personas with a custom SLMs, which would have been possible only via the LLMs on the public clouds. Now that we have a data security within the ambit of your own local laptops or the PCs, whatever it is, I would see it's a boon. It's always an advantage.
Well, Alok, if it's such a boon, why don't you, for the benefit of our audience, throw some numbers out there as to what kind of cost efficiencies are you seeing because of the use of this, or, in general, productivity?
I would say traditionally, if a task that takes, let's say, maybe a few hours, order entry is typical example for a telecom. We capture the data, we take minimum 30 minutes to 15 minutes to look at the documents and fill up the order entry. With this auto scanning, I would say just a few seconds, right? So that's where the efficiency is. Percentage computation, you can always think of it this way. This is one use case. There will be several of them.
Okay, well, Sudeep, what kind of partnerships are you building to bring this to businesses, given how new this is? And where does that 25,000 a quarter number go from here? How fast is it growing?
I'll go on partnerships first. AI, including Gen AI. If you are hungry for AI, then look at Dell as the world's largest food court, serving that hunger. And why I say that? Partnerships. One of the largest shops inside that food court is ours with Intel. We have been partners for decades and bringing out things together. Our first range of AI PCs with Intel, but we also have other silicon providers with whom we partner. Then we have SIs like Wipro and TCS and IBM, whose application layers or AI ML layers is what we work with. On data, for example, we work with Starburst, and Iceberg, and Snowflake, and not. So we have a concept called the Gen AI Factory, which means you want to do something at mass scale, come to us, we'll get it done. And it's in that context, I believe partnerships are very important because nobody can do it alone. Our PC that we have, for example, we run something called a Dell Optimizer in a PC, which ensures that your top 5 applications never go out of memory or top speeds, okay? And that's basis Intel's deep learning boost that we have inside that. These are examples of how you make AI work at scale at the edge.
So you didn't give us that number. How is it growing?
Oh, absolutely. See, that number that I gave you was half the right number anyways. So I believe perhaps India's number roughly, if you look at the B2B space, is 8.5 or 8 million units a year that India buys. Okay, and I think 20% of that next year could be AI PCs. 1/4 will convert.
Well, Siddharth, since you're one of the users of one-on-one AI, give us a sense of what best practices you recommend from what you've seen globally for organizations that are looking to deploy this.
No, I think Fortune 500, including very large banks in India, the very first step is the whole grounding mechanism. I mean, we can't deploy AI without grounding it in your enterprise, which fundamentally means that does the AI understand your lexicons? Do they understand your context? That this happened almost 6 months back, and many organizations are at different stages of adoption. We are in the stage now where we are now taking this AI model and creating specific use cases for personas. And I know you wanted some numbers on productivity. If you look at a very well implemented solution in large Fortune 500 organizations, a typical knowledge worker is saving almost 1 hour to 1.5 hours of work time every day. If you multiply it by 5 work days, literally he's getting close to 1 day free. 8 hours. That's massive. We are now heading into a space where I do believe very soon we don't have to respond to our tactical mails, because that was a huge consumption in any knowledge worker 8 hours life cycle. With the tonality, the contextuality of that persona, LLMs and SLMs, small language models, will become so efficient that they will now respond to your tactical mails, some of your tactical work, and thereby giving all employees chance to focus where it really matters. And that's where the value is. AI, I believe it's a great complementer to all the employees. I'm sure we all are sitting here in respective field will create that value. And that's the phase we are in. We are in that phase that it will become much, much more relevant. And it was very heartening to listen to Satya yesterday when the Microsoft Ignite happened. And he's so focused, the whole keynote was in Copilot. I think when industry stalwarts are putting their brain and might on this solution, I think there's a very, very contextual and powerful solution which we are building for employees.
Urvish, would you want to add on to that as to, what other kind of use cases you see for it?
Yeah, so look, I think from a use case perspective, few that can come to mind, content creation. We've been talking with a lot of musicians and artists to basically that will help them create the content without actually going to the cloud. So give you a little bit more context of, in our AI PC and sort of the processor in it. So, our ultra-core processor is first in the industry with a CPU, GPU, and NPU all in one. So what does that mean? Particularly the NPU accelerators, now you don't need to send your data to the cloud, which basically then leads to enhanced security that you can perform your large machine learning task right on your PC that basically enhances the security, reduces the latency, right? The online, offline accessibility, thereby also basically helping more hyper-personalization and experimentation, right? So I think, net of it is open ecosystem approach, vast install base, software-enabled accelerations that will basically a key differentiator for the AI PCs. And this is really the wave of a transformational in the industry of compute, that how we have been used to computing or using our laptops will fundamentally shift into, it's like basically, opening up a box that does all the tasks for you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Plus it learns the patterns as you use it more. That's the whole concept of AI.
Does it necessarily mean these are more sustainable as well from an
I'm
environment
sorry,
point of view?
one more.
Does it make them more sustainable as well from an environment point of view?
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because again, the ability to use data native at the edge in your compute
Versus from a data center?
saves the energy. You don't have to kind of push it to the cloud, so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Well, Alok, a quick word from you as well. What have been some of the best use cases you found from the adoption of one-on-one AI?
It's evolving. It's always evolving. I would say things which are more of compute intensive is something which will be picked up immediately for sure, and anything which requires a cognitive workloads. So if we have to assist any of the personas, at least in our, let's say, telco world, maybe whether it could be a sales guy or a servicing guy, we can always create those particular use cases via custom SLMs within the laptops or a persona, and that can be executed with the multiple efficiencies. I'll give you one example. If let's say the product which we're trying to sell is so complex in nature that we're not able to explain that well to a customer. So the AI machine can assist in terms of explaining the nuances of the product very efficiently. That's one of the very simple use case. Many a case we see security threat vectors are growing very, very fast. So I would say this is really a boon. If we have the AI-enabled PCs, we can really flick of a seconds, we can definitely at least detect majority of the security threats. Data privacy is also within the control of the specific laptops or the PCs for that matter. Another useful case, I would say, since I'm from the tech department, I always face a challenge with the users in terms of documenting the requirements. So one of the critical use case could be the machine itself can act like a co-pilot and be part of the discussions, note on all the business requirements, convert that into a requirement specification which is really necessary for a technical team to implement. So that's as simple, I would say, a much efficient tool in that case, right? Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Sudeep, just to capture all of that in terms of use cases, what has been the feedback from clients early on so far? What are they most apprehensive about when looking to adopt this, or what are they most excited about?
Do you know what an AI PC is?
Is that question to me?
Yeah, to everybody else as well.
Would someone like to
A
take a
PC
shot?
which can do 10 trillion operations per second, tops, 10 tops. At least 10 tops is an AI PC. Today PCs can do up to 30 tops. So think of doing 30 trillion operations per second. That's the kind of scale you can give to every employee. That's exciting. That's nerve-wracking as well for people, right? What I find similarities in organizations about this is like how they opened up internet to their employees. Remember when internet came, you will have 6 machines given to people, only email allowed, you can't do that, you can't do that. We stifled productivity for a long time in the name of God knows what will happen. And then one day, it just became so open that everybody uses it now. We are going through exactly the phase in understanding what AI PCs can go do. So my answer to your question, I think probably I lost your question in putting the perspective on it.
If the client feedback in terms of what they're most apprehensive about when adopting this technology and what they're most excited about.
What they're excited about is they see the a drastic improvement in productivity. He spoke about perhaps getting 1 day free. Now, you might not see 1 day, but I think half a day a week you definitely are able to optimize on people, which is like a good amount of time. It's like 15% of time that you're giving somebody to do something else. It's also reducing your operational cost. Do you know if you use an AI PC, in general, you charge it 37% less. So then you are actually saving 37% of power of what you used to go do. And not just on PCs, if you look at data centers, you actually reduce your power load by a factor of 38% too, because those run on a different concept. So apprehensions are primarily about hallucinations and I get a wrong thing in somebody's hands. But I think the benefits far, far outweigh the costs.
The few made-up things that the PC does along the way. But, since we're running out of time, concluding comments from all of you, quickly with you, Urvish, to any of the CXOs here in the audience, what would be the one piece of advice if they're looking to integrate AI into their workspace? And then final thoughts from you after that, Siddharth.
Well, first of all, look, we are here for business. We are ready to sell. We have engineers in the room.
You want to give them your email address
We have engineers in the room. We have salesmen in the room. And we are wanting to do workshop on AI use cases. We are wanting to help you basically build those use cases. So I think this is how the industry will move and forward. So let's do it.
Okay, Siddharth, final thoughts.
3 pointers. Focus on organizational change management. You can talk about all of this, but if change management is not done at a grassroots level, no employee will even touch it. They are very safe and secure of what they're doing. Second, take a decision between hybrid and composite AI. What will you keep local? What will you send to the cloud? Composite, what will be the combination of models? I know it's a bit technical, but what will be the composition of AI models to make it relevant for the various personas in the organization? Third, have an AI ethical organization. Start first, invest in it. It talks about personal information, it talks about data retention, local, regional nuance, and so on and so forth. So my 3 recommendations would be around these 3 vectors. Thank you.
All right. This is, I thought, a relatively complex topic, but all of you made it quite interesting. I'm quite keen to hear how this industry evolves from here. Thank you so much for candidly sharing your thoughts, Alok, Sudeep, Urvish, as well as Siddharth. It's been a pleasure speaking with all of you gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.